Hi, everyone, and welcome to Infinite Mindset. I am Dr. Sherry. I am so glad that you are joining me here today. Welcome if you are returning to my channel. It is brand new, and so I'm really hoping to grow it in a powerful way because I just want to share, this expansive wisdom and energy that is coming through in this 5D upgrade that we are all ascending into as humans on the planet. It is so much more than that. Ultimately, Infinite You is really about tuning into your potential, listening to your soul, allowing old programming that doesn't resonate with you or limiting thoughts and beliefs that you've been carrying around with you that are kind of a part of your internal dialogue and you are just ready to shift. The time for that now is amazing, like I said, because of this beautiful five-dimensional energy that is like really, I know it sounds probably not the best word, like seeping, creeping, infiltrating, integrating, downloading like onto our amazing planet and into our human consciousness. So, why am I kind of like doing this whole giant thing? Oh, and then if you're here for the very first time, I just want to share with you a little bit about me. I am a psychologist, an abundance mindset mentor, an intuitive empowerment coach, a life and a business coach, a spiritual entrepreneur, and definitely a human potential catalyst, thus the title of my channel, Infinite You. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. And what I want to start talking about today is what I'm calling like an addendum to my last video, which is I think the thumbnail title of it was Reality Mindset is Not What You Think. And I kind of went into like third, fourth, and fifth dimensional realities. So, and I'll make this very brief. You can go check that video out. But third dimensional reality is our physical reality. Fourth dimensional reality is our intellectual and mental energy. And fifth dimensional reality is that spiritual, high vibe, high frequency, love energy, one mind, source, God energy, all of that stuff. There are definitely more dimensions than five. There are six dimensions, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 dimensions. There are a lot of things going on in this beautiful, infinite, expansive universe. And I probably at some point will make a video about the characteristics of each of those different energies and those dimensions. But I want to get back to what I would like to talk about today. When I finished recording Mindset is Not What You Think a few days ago, and after I posted it, I was kind of like laying in bed that night thinking, what I said is not exactly true. And I wasn't putting out false information. I was just trying to be really in that space of, encouraging you to listen to your soul, encouraging you to expand, encouraging you to nurture and create a mindset that is not just, in three-dimensional reality where everything is in a lower vibration, feeling heavy, feeling like we're stuck, feeling as though reality is fixed. But when we move into these higher dimensions, we can really begin to shift our perceptions of how we see ourselves, how we see our reality, and how we can create whatever the heck it is that we want. So reality really is not fixed, even though it appears that way in that lower vibe of 3D. But back to my point, my bigger point was, as I was kind of like thinking about the video that I made the other day about mindset not being, what you think that it is, and talking about, 5D reality and how we can move back and forth, with our mindset because we're multidimensional beings. I kind of started having second thoughts because there have been people throughout time, across time, if you, and not even in a linear sense of time, but like the bigger picture of humanity and like who we are and who we have always been. There have been visionaries throughout time that have access these higher dimensional energies. And that is what I want to talk about today. So I wrote a script and I did not even look at it, but I'm going to just kind of read it just to see if I, you know, am talking about everything that I wanted to include in this video. So, as I mentioned in my last video, I talked about how mindset isn't just about psychology or hacks or toughening up or creating a new habit. It's definitely about energy and what dimension of reality that you choose to align with. I love the approach of going in between third, fourth, and fifth dimensional reality and just leaning into what feels right for me. And so I think before I keep talking, if I'm not making sense, if you want me to create more videos talking about these different dimensions and how in a very practical way you can, access them and use them and shift your perception, like really quite literally in a heartbeat if you feel like you need to just like lean in and feel really good about your conversations you're having with yourself, with others, the thoughts you're thinking, the reality you're creating, how you are responding to your world if you understand that reality in 3D world is not fixed at all. So, just drop a comment. Um, if you have any question or you want me to talk about these things further or like with a practical explanation, I have made other videos about multidimensional mindset and you can find them, in on my channel. So, feel free to go look through them. But anyway, so what I really want to share with you today in this video, leaning into the brilliance, the unbelievable, unadulterated, expansive, infinite brilliance of people who have walked the planet. Because here's the thing, this dimensional reality and the energy of it is not a new concept. Throughout human history, there have been people who have tapped into higher dimensions of consciousness. They were the visionaries, the mystics, the inventors who seemed to pull knowledge from thin air. But what if they were actually tuning into something bigger? Something that we all have access to, these beautiful, amazing higher dimensions. And that is what I really want to talk about today. Just give you some really inspiring, I think, examples of just, I feel like I want to say breathtaking. I don't think that's the right word. Awesome, wondrous, magical, expansive, brilliant, like all of the big, beautiful, inspiring words that really remind us that life is so much more than what we think it is, that we are so much more than who we think we are. And so the first genius who I want to talk about for sure is Nikola Tesla. He understood energy, frequency, and vibration. He was way more than an inventor. He was a channel for higher knowledge. And he often spoke about how his ideas came to him in fully formed visions, that he literally could see his inventions in his mind before building them. And so this is how he tapped into higher consciousness. And I feel like I had a secondary thought about Nikola Tesla. For sure, look him up. One of the things about him that I absolutely love is that he was definitely obsessed with numbers and patterns of numbers. And so, there are a lot of books about that as well, like 369 journaling, like those were his magical numbers. And I don't want to go into that now, but look up if you have a chance and if you're interested, look up Nikola Tesla's ideas about the numbers 369. They're very unique numbers and they all have a frequency and a particular energy. And and you can journal based on that. I actually do that myself. I write affirmations 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, and 9 times before I go to bed. It's huge. It's amazing. It definitely works. There's a vibration to it, and it's just a great way to, like, if you're not a huge journaler, you can kind of like use 369 as like a dovetail to get you in that mode of like reflecting and dreaming and imagining and creating and all of that stuff. I'm hesitating because I have another idea in my mind for a video that I want to make. And I don't know if I took notes. I think that I did. So I'm going to let it go for now. Thank you for being patient with me. What did Nikola Tesla do? He tapped into higher consciousness. He believed that all reality is energy, frequency, and vibration, a core fundamental truth to fifth dimensional reality. He credited his inventions to downloads from higher intelligence rather than personal genius. I think that this point is really huge because we humans tend to think that, like, in our heads and like as we're thinking, and that intellectual aspect of who we are, and like our mental energy and our, and mental body, like the energetic aspect, that one little piece of our aura, where we kind of think that like our thoughts and our wisdom and our amazing ideas and our genius is coming from our brain. But really, like, we're tuning into not only higher levels of consciousness and energy and frequency, outside of third and fourth dimensional reality, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 dimensional realities. We're all one. We are of one mind. We are of God's mind, of source energy, of the universe. We are all connected. It is definitely one and the same. So remember that. Remember your brilliant ideas. These creative downloads are coming through you, right? And our ability to think as human beings is amazing. But like, I think vibrationally, like, our own intellect is still like not as expansive as we can be. So Nikola Tesla practiced lucid dreaming and visualization to access creative insights beyond the physical realm. And before I move on to our next magical, amazing human being, and I could make 1,000 videos on this. And so if you can think of someone you want me to talk about, definitely put something in the comments. But the quote from Tesla: if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Number 2 on the list, Leonardo da Vinci, the master of infinite imagination. And I had to pull, it's so strange that I just chose these people to talk about. There are so many. Like, as soon as I said Da Vinci, Michelangelo popped into my head too. Um, yeah. And so, like, lean into the feeling and the vibration of my words, because there were just so many visionaries that have walked the planet. And the thing is, if you're called to feel like you have a vision, that you are a visionary, that you are beyond a thought leader, that you are ready to lean into your own expansiveness, like, just, these people are just to help remind you that you are that as well. If you listen, if you lean in, when you are called. So going back to Da Vinci, he wasn't just a painter. He was a scientist, an engineer, a philosopher, a visionary who created blueprints for technology that would not exist for centuries. Flying machines, submarines, futuristic weapons. I think that if I'm not mistaken, I think he invented the first prototype for the helicopter in the 1500s. I think he invented the first concept of a fax machine, which, if you're younger and you're listening to this video, you probably don't know what a fax machine is. And I'm not saying that in a weirdo, judgmental way. It probably is true, because technology is just moving and improving so quickly, so rapidly, like where we are, like in our consciousness at this time in 2025. So, how did Leonardo tap into higher consciousness? He channeled inspiration across multiple disciplines, effortlessly flowing between science and art. He kept detailed journals filled with his insights that seemed way too advanced for his time, and his ability to see the interconnectedness of all things absolutely mirrors the oneness of 5D energy. One of his most famous quotes: learn how to see. Realize that everything connects. to everything else. I don't want to rush through that. It is so darn powerful. Number three on this magical list of people across time, through time, who have tuned into this higher consciousness and these higher dimensions: the beautiful, the amazing, the brave, the, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe her. I'm just going to say it. She's always been one of my heroes. Joan of Arc, the mystic warrior who heard divine guidance. Joan of Arc was a teenager when in France, from a small village in France. Hang on. I can't remember where she was born. She was burned at the stake in Rouen, and I know that because I actually visited that place when I was in France many, many, many years ago. But anyhow, from this small village, she led an army. She changed the course of history, and she refused to waver in her unshakable belief of divine guidance. She absolutely believed that she heard people, angels, spirit guides, to help guide her to a truth, to stand tall, to be brave, to be, quite literally, to die on a hill for what she believed in. And so she received auditory downloads of what she called voices of angels. She had unshakable faith and conviction despite enormous opposition, and her actions defied all logic of 3D reality. She definitely was a young girl that led a male dominated army, and brought people. This is amazing, and I feel like there's another version of her quote, but she aligned people to listen to her, to follow her. And she definitely, her fate was that she would be burned at the stake, but she was just such a brave, connected visionary for her time. And her quote is, "I am not afraid. I was born to do this." And I think I want to pause for like a moment because I don't know, I feel a little bit emotional about this because when we listen to who we are, our soul's truth, when we hear angels, our guides, right? We all have them. When we listen, we begin to see ourselves differently, and we begin to, understand our power and our eternity and our expansiveness in a much more profound and likely realistic way. So, maybe in part, me wanting to make this video to just say, hey, people have like tapped into this higher energy and consciousness since forever. But I think the other thing is like, take a moment and just reflect on your own superpowers, your own sense of feeling connected, your own genius, your own calling. And then number four on my list, is Saint Clare of Assisi, the woman who transcended time and space. I definitely feel very connected to Saint Clare, and I've been to Assisi many, many times. And on one end of the small village, there is the beautiful, ginormous, amazing church filled with beautiful energy of Saint Francis. And I'm quite sure I feel connected to him particularly because of his love of animals. And, just walking through this ancient town, and I don't think ancient is probably the right word, but it's a very, 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 very old town. Monks are still like walking around like in their brown robes, and it's just so beautiful. And there's like an element of austerity to it. And I'm not saying that austerity and spirituality go hand in hand, but it just kind of like, it just feels simple. It just feels like breaking down all of the barriers between the simplicity of our souls and the nature of who we are, and our connection to God and to source energy. I'm not quite sure how else to say that. But at the other end of Assisi is St. Clare's Church, and it's not as giant and as uh, elaborate as St. Francis's church. But every time I have ever gone into St. Clare's Church, I feel so wildly connected to her. She was a devotee of St. Francis, and she wanted to live that life in devotion of that higher level Christ consciousness. And her parents did not want her to do it. Um, but she kept running away to go join St. Francis. And at one point, her family came to grab her literally and like take her home. And she meditated and made her, as the story goes, and made her body so heavy and dense that they couldn't move her. And so she knew that she was on a particular path. When I Google energy and dimensionality around St. Clare, I'm kind of like, I think if I'm not mistaken, and if I am mistaken, I definitely will correct myself in my next video or when I talk about this again. I want to say she was accessing like seventh dimensional energy. But ultimately, and the thing about it is too is that when you go visit, St. Clare's Church, and you go down underneath, her tomb is there, and they have an entire display behind glass of like the robes and the shoes that she wore. You can feel her energy. It's amazing. And I'm talking about going back in time. If you think time is linear, going back in time to 800 or 900 years ago. So it's amazing to see something that has been preserved for that long through time. St. Clare was known for her miraculous abilities, including what some believe was a form of remote viewing or energetic bilocation. So she could like literally like move her body, the energy of who she was from one place to another. And so how did she tap into higher consciousness? She reportedly saw and heard a full church service happening miles away without physically being there. She lived in a constant state of deep meditation and high frequency prayer. She embodied the 5D principle of devotion and pure alignment with divine energy. And I think her awareness and connection was higher than 5D. So I want to clarify that. And so she is now actually the patron saint of televisions and screens because of her ability to see events from a distance. But she was so much more than that. She was just a devotee of Saint Francis and the possibilities of more than just devotion, of connecting to a higher level of consciousness, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. The next woman I want to talk about is Helena Blavatsky. She was a mystic who introduced esoteric knowledge to the world. And I do want to say this. I could talk about so many people. So this was just sort of like the beginning list. And maybe I'll just kind of keep making these videos from time to time, just so you can see like all of the people that have tapped in and tuned in over time. So she was definitely controversial, but undeniably a powerful figure who claimed to be in contact with ascended masters and other higher dimensional beings. And so, how did she tap into higher consciousness? She traveled the world to learn ancient wisdom from different cultures, including Tibetan monks and Indian mystics. She channeled what she called the secret teachings from advanced spiritual beings, and she wrote The Secret Doctrine, one of the first books to be introduced that actually introduced the idea of multidimensional consciousness. And her famous quote is, "There is no religion higher than truth." So I think it's truth with a capital T. And it's kind of interesting. As I was talking about her, Dolores Cannon popped into my head. And I'm not going to be talking about her today, but she is another more modern embodiment of that similar energy where she saw things and understood things in a multidimensional way. And so I do have to bring up, the big, beautiful, amazing, high vibe, high frequency, oh gosh, um, heroes of mine of all time, the Buddha, Jesus Christ Superstar, and then of course all of these other mystics, Krishna. In my mind, Paramahansa Yogananda, who definitely was um, really like the East Indian embodiment and understood Christ consciousness, and came to America around, I want to say, don't quote me, 1920 something, right, to bring that Christ consciousness in his own way to, you know the consciousness of what he felt like needed to happen in the United States. So mystics across spiritual traditions have taught oneness, presence, unconditional love, and the ability to transcend physical limitations. So, how did they tap into higher consciousness? They saw through the illusion of separation, which is all about this three-dimensional energy, and lived in unity with divine energy. They performed many miracles, which could be seen as a deeper understanding of quantum mechanics, or fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th dimensional energies. Their teaching aligned with beyond O5D principles, but they definitely start at that level of unconditional love, of presence, of manifestation. And so, Jesus's quote in this video, and I want to clarify why I called him a superstar. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Why is Jesus Christ a superstar? Hang on, I need to take a little sip of tea. Jesus Christ Superstar was a play that came out, a rock opera that came out in the 1970s. It was the first Broadway play I had ever seen. And I definitely, as a small, small child, couldn't cognitively separate Jesus Christ from this rock opera. And so growing up, and I was raised Catholic, and I happened to go to a church, attend a church that it was the 70s. And why am I bringing that up? Because there was like an element of, how could I say this? Masses were in English and no longer in Latin in this church. And the choir that sat above the church, were strumming acoustic guitars and playing Cat Stevens. And so my experience growing up, like in the Catholic faith, was hearing songs like Morning Has Broken. So I fell in love with the idea of this higher consciousness and unconditional love, and plus the priest was just an amazing human being. And so my beginning, like my quote unquote indoctrination into Catholicism, definitely was a very beautiful, expansive, musical, amazing experience for a child. I didn't have like that feeling of like that dogmatic stuff of like, being a sinner or not enough or feeling guilty or any of those things. It was just a very expansive, enlightened experience. And so, Christ consciousness is something that I still, very much invite into my world and my awareness and my consciousness. Definitely. I feel like I'm being ridiculously tangential, but definitely like Jesus Christ Superstar. The soundtrack is amazing. The play was amazing. And at the end of the day, like he was a superstar. So I feel like I had one more person on my list, but I think that's great. Like it's the beginning of like what I said, where I in my last video saying, we are all moving into this higher consciousness. We are. You can feel it. And like if you're having an off day, or if your energy feels off, if you're having like, a little like some health issues, or you feel like you're in like an odd vibration, or you feel just a little bit off, it may be the the energy of this new awareness, this new, as everyone is talking about, this ascension for collective humanity and human consciousness that we're moving into. So just kind of like tune in, like just tune in a little bit deeper, because we are all going to be, and it kind of in an odd way goes back to mindset, right? Because remember, mindset is everything. Mindset is all about how we perceive ourselves in the world, and we are doing it at different levels in different dimensions, because we're not just physical beings, we're energetic beings. So, you know, I don't know if this sounds woo woo, and I don't even like to use that word, and I don't even think that it matters. At the end of the day, we are all energy. We are all energy beings. We are all light beings. We are more energy beings than we are physical beings. So remember that. And we're moving into and in and out of dimensions and different realities all the time. Um, I know I can feel it at night when I've traveled, because when I get back into my body, when I wake up, it almost feels like I'm kind of energetically like slamming back into my body. I don't know how else to describe it. So I'm kind of looking through my notes, and I just want to see like if I missed anything like super duper important. So just remember that my small sample of these amazing, beautiful, magical people, they were not just geniuses. They were tuned into a higher energy that we all have access to. You can tap into it too. Mindset is not just about thinking positive thoughts. It is not just perceiving yourself in three-dimensional and fourth-dimensional reality. It's about choosing the level of consciousness you want to align with. And I do want to say this, and I think that it really matters. We, it's not about becoming, how could I say this? It's not about, I think I've said this in another video. I remember for a very long time, I just wanted to reach enlightenment in this lifetime. And I've kind of like, I don't want to say I backed away from it, but I wanted to really feel like I have integrated my awareness at all of these different levels of who I am, so I could experience myself fully. Why am I saying that? Because I'm talking about like examples that are the Christ, the Buddha, Krishna, right? These amazing magical people that have walked the planet, that, we easily could be like, oh my God, they were perfect in so many ways. Like, I can't even measure up or be that or embody that. And I don't think that that's really what I'm getting at. I think I'm definitely saying you do you. We should all do ourselves. Like, that's the thing. You do you. It is not about being perfect. It is not, if it is not your soul's purpose or path or in your sacred contract to come here and be, the Christ, of course that's okay. Like, it's really like for me, and what I was just saying, I do think part of my purpose was to really begin to understand how to integrate all of these different dimensions and energies and levels of awareness and consciousness, so I could fully be who I am meant to be in this lifetime. We all have our own truth. Listen to what your heart and soul are telling you. Listen to the whispers. Listen to those taps on your shoulder. It's really about tuning in. We each have our own journey. It is not about perfection. It is not about being like number one human being unless you're called to be that. We each have our own purpose and role to fulfill for its own sake. And I really think that matters. So, because we want to laugh and have fun and experience three-dimensional reality in a really powerful way without feeling lack or a lack of, whatever, wealth or self-worth or whatever the case may be, right? Or feel fear, right? All of the things that are happening in three-dimensional reality. And so, and then integrating like fourth dimensional reality, like when is the best time to use and access your mental energy and your intellectual energy? And then when is the best time for you to just slip into that higher vibration of love and light and compassion and non judgment of yourself and of others, and just be in that higher vibration because it feels so good, and your heart and your mind, align, and it's just a beautiful different way to our experience ourselves. And so mindset is all of those things. Mindset is multidimensional. Why? Because you are multidimensional. You are an infinite being. And so what will you create? If this resonated, definitely I would love to hear from you. And if you want me to talk about more people, I would love to do that too, because there's so many people out there that over time that have done amazing things and have inspired us in so many ways. So I feel like I had one last thought and I think I may have lost it. But if you can think of anyone that has tapped into these higher dimensional energies and these higher, levels of consciousness, for sure, comment below. And if you like this video and if it resonates with you, please hit subscribe. This is a new channel. Hit like if you are so inclined, and I will see you in my next video. I will put a link below to access my free newsletter, and I will see you all soon. Namaste.